My husband Tim and I have 3 children, Sammy, who is 12, Miles, who is 9, and then Elia is our little girl, and she is 5. 4.5 years ago, when Elia was just an infant, she started having some horrible symptoms, and something was ailing her, and we couldn't figure out what it was. She was admitted into the hospital, and we spent days just trying to search to figure out what was going on with her, and we couldn't find it. And after a few days of being in the hospital, I realized that Elia was just hours away from taking her last breath, and we pleaded with the doctors to figure out what was shutting down in her body. And they brought in a neurologist, and it was not long before Elia was diagnosed with infant botulism. She was one of 80 babies in 2013 to contract infant botulism here in the US, and it is a paralytic. So her body was being slowly paralyzed to the point that she would slowly stop breathing. And they took her to the ICU, and they put her in a coma, and they intubated her, and they started breathing for her. And then we waited for an antitoxin to come from California, and we just sat next to her bedside praying that this was the right answer, praying that she would recover. It was a hard struggle, but the antitoxin slowly started working, and Elia slowly started to recover, and she gained muscle tone back, and we were thrilled to pass this part of our journey, that she was getting better. So then a few months after that horrible struggle, my older son was roughhousing with a cousin in the ocean, and he ended up getting hurt and taken by ambulance to the Children's Hospital. And it was there that they told us that they believed Sammy had a lacerated kidney, a grade 3 lacerated kidney, so a very large bleed. And in the ambulance from the Outer Banks to the hospital, this little girl's name kept circling in my head. I had mentored our old pastor's daughter, and Caitlin just kept swirling around. Caitlin is a kidney cancer survivor. And I heard the Lord say to me in the ambulance, Sammy has cancer. And I remember being overwhelmed, but at the same time, like, okay, we're gonna be on a mission. So when we got the grade 3 lacerated kidney diagnosis, I was confused. I didn't understand why I was so sure he had cancer. We left the hospital, we got discharged, but this mom was on a mission, and I wanted to figure out why the Lord had just given me such peace that he had cancer. So we started pursuing other avenues. It wasn't long after that that Sammy was diagnosed with kidney cancer. In between all of this, my daughter, I had put a barrette in Elia's hair going to one of the doctor's appointments to take care of Sammy. And we were on the interstate, and my son said, Mom, Elliot's choking. And I turned around, and her mouth was wide open, and she was digging in her mouth. She couldn't breathe. I was able to pull over to the side of the road, and I tried with everything I could to remove this barrette from her throat. And after my second attempt to swipe, I pushed it in. And I thought, after everything we have done for this child, I just killed her. And that was a very hard moment holding my daughter. Someone stopped on the interstate, and together we were able to get her breathing again. And so we ended up at CHKD. We had moved the barrette in a place where she was able to get air, and by the time we got there, they were able to put her under and remove the barrette. All of this, her infant botulism and Sammy's diagnosis of cancer and Elia going through this choking episode, is enough to just break anyone. While those struggles were hard, I will say that the Lord carried us through. When I look back in him speaking to me, at one point before we took Elia to the hospital, I heard a voice say she's dying. And I knew then that we had to react. And I think back to that moment, and I'm like, that's the Lord. That is the Lord taking care of me, that he put that kind of peace in my heart to know that I needed to move. The Lord spoke to me in the ambulance, telling me that Sammy had cancer. So no matter what our struggles were, it was a realization to me that the Lord had not left his throne, that he had not looked away from us, that he didn't stop caring about us, that he was still sovereign, and that he was guiding us. I do remember one moment when my son was going through cancer treatment and he was super sick one night, and I had a conversation with God, kind of going fisticuffs with the Lord, saying, God, I love this child so much. Do you even know how much I love this child? And I felt this peace of the Lord, and he said, love. Let me tell you about love for your children. Do you know the moment that your daughter swallowed that toxin? And I went, no, Lord. I know that she probably did about 3 weeks prior, but I don't know. And the Lord said to me, I know the moment it entered her body. Do you know how many hairs your son lost during chemo? And I said, no, Lord, I know he went bald. I know he's lost all of them. And the Lord said, but I know that number. Do you know the moment his cells decided to go rogue and cancer started to grow in his body? No, but the Lord did. And he said, that is how intimately your children are known and loved by me. And my guiding you is how intimately known and loved you are by me. And it was this promise, just like it says in the Bible, like he's not gonna leave us, he's not gonna forsake us, that he goes before us, that he's gonna guide us. This world is full of junk, and junk is gonna happen. But we have hope that he will not leave us, and that at the end of the day, he has conquered sin and death, that he's conquered it all, and we can trust that.